See, I'm a beast when you hear that sound like yeah, beat on the beat when you hear that sound like woo. Yeah, bitch and the champ only need one round like yeah, me, I'm a G-Ring here and it sound like
Mike Owens here. Today I'm joined by Jack Tank Shaw, who returns to action the 18th of March, facing Makwan Amirkhani at UFC London. Jack, always a pleasure to get your time. How are things with you today?
Yes, Mike, good to be on. Good to finally have fight week coming round. A couple of days out, so yeah, it's good. It's good to be back in that mindset, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What's the biggest difference between a fight week that will take place in the US and a fight week that will take place at home?
If I'm honest, it's a lot more comfortable. You know, it's a 3-hour drive for me to London, so I haven't got to go up. I haven't got to leave the family till Tuesday afternoon. You know, there's no sort of acclimatizing yourself to the weather. There's no sort of acclimatizing yourself to the time change. Even silly little stuff like, you know, the stuff you need to grab from the shops, and you know you got your Tesco's. They're gonna have what you need. It's not always the case out in America. Just little things like that, you know. Ultimately, the fight week is made pretty easy by the UFC. In all fairness, once you get on site, they kind of do everything for you. But it's just the travel. You know, I don't mind fighting away. It's just the traveling like that. When we go to Vegas that day, or that 23 hours of the drive to London, then the flight to somewhere in America, then the changeover, and then the drive to the hotel. It's that ultimately pisses me off and drains me. If I could click my fingers and be in Vegas, and you know, if I could fly to Vegas and be there in 2 hours, it wouldn't be an issue. It's not so much the time and the heat; it's just the actual traveling there. So it's nice to just jump in the car and be able to go up.
No, that makes total sense. If we talk about the opponent, Amirkhani, as I mentioned, what do you make of him in terms of an upcoming matchup? Give me your scouting report.
Yeah, Amirkhani, I've watched him. I was someone fucking ringing me. Sorry, mate.
No problem.
Let me can't smile.
Little bit of a technical difficulty there, courtesy of Richard Shaw. Jack, we were talking a little bit about your upcoming opponent, Amirkhani.
Yeah, he's you know, I've watched him fight before, even when I was at bantamweight, even before I was in the UFC. I remember watching him, and you know, he's kind of what you see on paper. You know, he's a solid wrestler, grappler. He can strike a little bit. He's got a lot of experience. I think he's been in the UFC almost 10 years. So to be in the organization that long obviously shows you got a bit about it. You know, he's been in with guys Shane Burgos, Arnold Allen, Barboza. Even his last couple of fights against Grundy and Jonathan Pierce. So he's a good guy. He's a good test, and yeah, I think stylistically it'll be a fun one.
I don't know if you've checked the record, but I was having a little bit of look at Makwan Amirkhani's UFC record. 14 fights. This will be his 15th going in. 8 of those 14 fights have been against fellow Brits, as you mentioned, the likes of Arnold Allen, Lerone Murphy, Danny Henry, and many others come to mind. His record against Brits is 5 wins and 3 losses. So he's actually got a winning record against us Brits. Yeah. So obviously this fight is of prime importance to your career, but is this also about defending the home territory, perhaps?
How many wins has he got against the Welsh? If he haven't got no wins against the Welsh,
he's 0-0 against the Welsh.
Here we go then. So he'll have a losing record against the Welsh soon enough. No, it doesn't make in all seriousness, it doesn't make no difference that he's fought a lot of British guys. You know, in all fairness to him, he's been in there with a who's who, and it's more so like I'm more so just looking at he's been in there with a good caliber of guy, a good level of opponent. So it's you know, I want to take that he's beat a couple of British guys personally, but I'll obviously do my best to make sure that he doesn't get the one up on the Welsh.
No, of course. Obviously, when we look at Jack Shaw and we look at your skill set, it's a very versatile skill set. You can do everything from the striking right seamlessly into the grappling. But so can Amirkhani in many ways. So I wonder, when you're looking at this as a matchup, where do you expect him to want to try and keep this fight? On the feet or on the ground?
I think you want it on the ground, truth be told. I think you know, he can strike a little bit, but when I watch his striking, he ultimately strikes in order to open up his takedowns. I've never really seen him in the footage I've watched strike because that's where he wants to keep the fight. He kind of strikes enough to get you to forget about the rest and to then shoot in and nail his takedown and look to sub out. I expect him to come and try and take it to the ground. Obviously, I'm going to try and make that very difficult for him. I only really want to go to the ground if it's on my terms. I don't want to be on my back, and I don't want him looking to set up any subs. But he's very good at what he does. You know, he's got a good body lock, good front headlock. He loves the anaconda choke. It's all stuff to watch out for. But ultimately, yeah, I think he's. I would imagine he'll come and wrestle. You know, I don't think he's going to come for a striking match.
No, that makes total sense. Obviously, another key part of this fight is obviously the move up to featherweight, making the jump up to 145. Can I ask why now was the perfect? I think you've kind of teased this move over the last couple of years, but why now was the decision to move up to featherweight?
So the last couple of my last 4 weight cuts have been brutal, and as the old saying goes, it's easy to forget about the bad when you're winning. You know what I mean? When you're winning fights, you fast forget about how tough the day before was in order to make weight. And one of the deciders was kind of in between the Valiev and the Ricky fight. I really made a conscious effort to keep my weight down. I didn't balloon. Me and my nutritionist and my old man, we kind of monitored my weight every week pretty much from 2 weeks after the Valiev fight to make sure I didn't go above, I think it was 160 pounds, which I did a very good job of. The weight, seamlessly was a lot lower than what I was going into fight week for the Valiev fight, but then the weight cut was just as tough on the body. And it kind of made me think, am I pushing the limits a little bit too far? Am I kind of because it wasn't through lack of discipline that the weight cut was hard. It wasn't through lack of diet and lack of keeping my weight down. It was just kind of that final 6-7 pounds just felt like murder. So I spoke to Paul Reed. I've arranged to go up and do a DEXA scan, and I did the scan, and when the doctor up there, I can't remember his name, I'll have to find it out. They kind of just looked at me stupid as if to say you're not a bantamweight, you need to cut the featherweight. And they kind of put into perspective. If you don't end up doing a weight cut, you're going to end up affecting your long-term health. And I got no problem getting hurt in the sport, but I don't want to get hurt or have serious damage done to me because of a weight cut. And having done a camp of featherweight now, I can see how massively effective my training was at bantamweight, and that just goes to show. I was performing at bantamweight looked great to a lot of people, but compared to what I can do in the gym, it didn't necessarily seem to transcend. And I feel like a different animal in the gym. My numbers are a lot better in terms of my cardio, my strength, my power. I just feel like a new man. I mean, the timing wise, it was probably truthfully because of the loss. I mean, because I lost, it was kind of right, what went wrong? Let's kind of analyze all the factors. I mean, if I had won, maybe I would have swept it under the carpet and forgotten about it again. But sometimes you got to take those bumps in the road to kind of make you look at the bigger picture and think, am I sort of minimizing my potential here because I'm trying to cut weight and be the bigger man? Why don't I move up the weight? All right, I won't be. I don't think I'll be a small featherweight, but I'm never going to be like the bigger of the two guys or a monster at the weight. But I think performance-wise, it'll be a lot better and a lot healthier for me. And I think the entire sport is going in that direction, to be honest. We got bantamweights in the gym now who walk around 4 or 5 kilos lighter than me out of camp, and then not even dieting, and I'm on a relatively sort of not right now. Obviously, this is out of camp numbers, but so just put it in perspective. And I thought, what is one thing my old man telling me, but when I've got a doctor and a scientist telling me you're going to do serious damage to yourself if you don't move up the weight, and we think you could be a much better athlete at this weight. I thought, why not? What have I got to lose?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And obviously, if you've got that medical advice,
and I started my career at featherweight as well. I had my first 7 fights were at featherweight, and never once did I really feel outstrength or outsized. It was just I was a lot younger then. I was carrying a lot less muscle. I was practically a kid, and I was walking around a lot lighter. So it's like you think, well, I'm only this weight, and the majority of featherweights are walking around at this weight, so I need to drop down. Whereas now I'm walking around at the weight that most featherweights are walking around at. So it just made sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense, especially with the likes of yourself going up. Obviously, the year Nathaniel Woods had, another guy who was previously at bantamweight and to move up to featherweight, and the wonders that he's shown in his skill set and how much he's been able to show going up a weight is obviously testament to what you're talking about. Speaking of Nathaniel Wood, there was obviously a massive featherweight matchup between himself and Lerone Murphy booked in the division that you're moving up to. I'm just wondering if there was any offers of a potential domestic clash, and if so, do you have any interest in fighting any of the other Brits?
No, there was never nothing offered to us. Obviously, I seen these fights start getting matched up. I got to my manager, and I was like, what's the hold up for me? And they were like, look, you're ranked at bantamweight. You're kind of more towards the upper end, towards the rankings. So it's going to take a little bit more time for them to figure out the right opponent, for you. They don't want to give me a gimme. Do you know what I mean? Just because I'm coming up a weight, they don't want to give me a guy who's kind of bottom of the tree, so to speak. And yeah, look, either of those guys pick up a win. That's obviously a fight in the future. I know the fight's off now. I don't know if Larone's got a replacement or well, maybe they're going to look to rebook that fight down the line. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, I intend on winning this fight, and we'll see how the next fight plays out and go from there.
Yeah, makes total sense. You mentioned that the last fight. I've got to ask a little bit about the Ricky Simone loss. Obviously, the first loss in your professional career. I just want to know how you reflect on that fight and what, if at all, were the biggest lessons that you learned from that one.
Yeah, look, there were a lot of positives. There was negatives as well. It wasn't like I went in there and got whitewashed. I felt like I was in the fight. I was winning areas of the fight. Up until I was in it till I wasn't. That's the terminology I've used since the fight. I was more than holding my own against an elite level guy. Just lessons to learn on how I got caught. How I approached the fight. Maybe I think I'd perhaps focus a little bit too much on what he was going to do rather than what I wanted to do. We fought like early in the afternoon because of the time zone and all that out there. And I think weight cut wise, it might have had a little bit of an effect on me. But yeah, no discredit from Ricky's performance at all. He put in a great shift, got a great win, and he's got a really big fight coming up. So I wish him all the best for that. But yeah, just lessons learned. That's life. That's martial arts. That's what it's all about. It's not kind of about sounding like a cringe ball and trying to sound all motivational. It's not necessarily about losing. It's about how you react to a loss, how you address it. Whether you right your wrongs in the gym before going into the cage. It is what it is. It's MMA. It's a game of inches. You zig when you should have zagged, and sometimes you lose. And I always knew that was a reality. It's great to be undefeated, but it is what it is. My family is still love me. My friends still love me. I hope anyway. And my team and training partners still got full faith in my ability as well. It's just one of them. Ricky's look at Ricky. He's on what, a 6-fight win streak now. He picked up a few losses before that. And he's probably now in a better position than some of the guys who beat him. So things can come full circle, and it's just a bump in the road. Something I've learned from, and I'm looking forward to righting a few wrongs now next weekend.
Yeah, 100%. With that being said, obviously, the return fight coming off the losses is in London, back on home turf. Obviously, the Jack Shore Army will be in full attendance. I wonder if this feels like the perfect stage, the perfect location for your return, or does having the home crowd add any more nerves or any more nerves in that way?
To be honest, it's always great to have I've always been used to having a big ovation when I fight, so it's great to have, like last year was my first year back fighting in front of a crowd, and it was great to have. Even in New York, I had a good ovation, and obviously there was Welsh flags and stuff in the crowd there, and I'm like, there's can't be no Welsh people out there. Apart from my boy Tommy, who's out there. He's like he's a Bostonian, but he's fucking honourable Welshman. I always tell him that.
The super fan Tommy Egan.
Yes, the main man. But there's as long as there's a crowd there, it'll be great to have an ovation. It'll be packed, I think, from early on because it's such a big pay-per-view card, and it's a pleasure to be part of it. People are calling it the biggest card in UK history. So yeah, it's perfect. There's no traveling, no time change, no being away from the family for longer than needed. No drastic weight cuts. So it seems like it's all falling in my lap perfectly. Just got to go out there now and execute.
Yeah, and obviously the main event is a massive fight for the welterweight title, Leon versus Kamara Usman in the trilogy. Just thoughts on that fight, and if you have a quick prediction for that one.
Yeah, massive fight. Probably especially after the last fight, the biggest fight in the sport at the minute. Now Makhachev and Volk's done. I mean, skill-wise, they're both so evenly matched. Obviously, there's no altitude this time, so I don't think Leon will get tired like he did in the last one. I think he'll still be 50-50, but also I'm rooting for Leon. The more British guys do well, and the better this sport is for us, the more opportunities we'll have. And let's say it how it is. Leon is the sole reason that they brought the pay-per-view to the UK. There's no other reason. If he had lost that fight, this London card would just be another fight night. So he's the sole reason we've got a big pay-per-view. He's the sole reason people like Dana and Hunter are coming over and all the media. So yeah, I'm rooting for Leon, and I think he can do it. Tough ass, but he was a tough ass last time when he pulled it off. So with the confidence and the momentum of last time, I think he should get it done.
Finally, from me, Jack, obviously I want to turn the conversation back to yourself. Obviously, the prime focus is the win on the 18th. I'm sure you're not looking past that. But post W, what are your essential goals for the rest of this year? Where do you want to be come the end of 2023?
You know, I'm going to be a dad now in July, so
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So it'd be ideal to get another one in, you know, but obviously with the missus and getting stuff ready for baby, we'll see what happens there. But you know, I love to, if I can't get one in there, I definitely want to try and get 1 or 2 in the end of the year. I'm at that age now, I think, where I'm maturing a bit, and I'm not just kind of like, oh, let's get ranked and let's push for the top 10. It's kind of like, let's just go back to taking it one fight at a time. Let's get a win on the weekend and see what opportunity presents itself. There's plenty of good fights in the division. There's plenty of solid guys in the rankings, plenty of solid guys out the rankings. So we'll see what happens. But you know, I definitely want to fight a couple of times this year. You know, providing all goes well.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I wasn't aware of the baby on the way. So congratulations on that on a personal note. Jack, it's always a pleasure to catch up. It really is. I wish you the best of luck for this fight on the 18th, and I hope I haven't put you through too hard of a cardio session having to talk whilst being in the corner for 15 minutes.
To be honest, it's gone a lot quicker because I've had someone to talk to. It usually gets a bit tougher when I'm sat there on my own listening to some fucking bullshit on YouTube. But this has been a bit easier, so nice one for that.